Hello, my name is Anniken and I live in the southwest of England, but I'm originally from Norway. And in this yarn review, I'm going to talk about a yarn I use for a shawl that I just released fairly recently. This shawl is called Trithivi, and I will put the link to the pattern below. And I have also just released a video where I talk about this shawl and specifically about how to substitute a yarn if you can't get hold of the yarn I used. But in this video, I want to specifically talk about the yarn I used for this shawl. So I bought this yarn in Norway. I was in Norway for a month in June, July, so a couple of months ago, and I went to my mum's local yarn shop, and this yarn really jumped out at me. They had some really pretty colours, so I chose two colours. I got one ball of each, and I didn't really know what I was going to knit with it. But when I came back a couple of days later, when I finished knitting what I brought with me, I decided to cast on for a shawl. So the Holst, this is Holst Garn, which is a Danish yarn company. It's Holst Garn, Garn. Garn is Danish for yarn, same as it is in Norwegian. Danish and Norwegian is very similar. The way it's written in written language is very similar, and I could read Danish fairly easily, but the way it's pronounced is quite different. And I used to be able to understand Danish, but I am not very good anymore because I've not been to Denmark since I was 14, 15. It's a long time ago. Anyway, this yarn is called Tides. Now I don't know if it's pronounced tides in Danish. So it's spelled T-I-D-E-S. So in English that would be tides. Maybe pronounced slightly differently in Danish. Might be tides. That's how it would be pronounced in Norwegian. Tides. So I don't know whether it's similar in Danish. I'm not sure. But it's a 3-ply or 4-ply yarn. When I put it up on Ravelry, it came up as 3-ply. I would say a thin 4-ply, maybe 3-ply. It has 287 meters or 314 yards per 50 gram. And for this shawl I used, which is quite big, I used 150 grams in total. And the yarn composition is 70% wool, 30% silk. The recommended needle size on the ball band is 3 to 3.5 millimeter, which is US 2.5 to 4. For this shawl, I use 3.75 millimeter needles, because for lace I always tend to go up a couple of needle size or two. So the first, the reason I picked this yarn up in the yarn shop was because I like the colours. The first thing I looked at was the colours. And then I look at how the yarn feels. So I gave it a little bit of a squish and I touched the ball and I liked the way it felt. The yarn has a very slight texture to it, a slightly kind of rustic nature, but it's still very, very soft. Normally silk makes the yarn a bit shinier, gives the yarn a little bit of a sheen depending on how much silk it has, and this doesn't really have a sheen on it, so that might be down to the type of silk that's been used. It doesn't say what type of silk it is, but I think different types of silk can give the yarn more or less sheen, but you wouldn't look at it and think it has silk in it. But it is very, very soft, and it does have quite a nice drape. And it has kept its shape quite well since I blocked it. You can see slightly the white specks in the yarn, or lighter specks in the yarn. So I don't know how easy it is to see this in this darker colour. Can't really see it in the light pink, but in this darker colour you can kind of see lighter specks, slightly white specks, and I suspect that's the silk. So normally silk and wool, you would use different types of dyes when you dye them. So even though silk is it's from an animal, it's from the silkworm, it's not an animal fibre the way that wool is. So normally you'd use different type of dye for animal fibres and a different type of dye for cellulose fibres like cotton and that kind of thing. And when I used to hand dye yarn, I used to dye silk the same way I would dye cotton. So when you have a yarn that has say wool and silk, or wool and bamboo, or wool and cotton, sometimes the non-wool, or could be alpaca and silk. Sometimes the silk may take the color slightly differently. Depends on the way it's spun as well and how well mixed it is. But I suspect this is it's just taking the yarn slightly differently. And I really like it because it doesn't give you that solid flat color like this, which everything is just completely solid. There's no variation. This has a very slight variation in the color. It gives it a little bit more depth, which I really, really like. It is very soft. It's lovely to knit with. It's got beautiful drape, and the silk content should help keep its shape after blocking, although it is only 30% silk and 70% wool. The yarn consists of 2 plies, so it's 2 strands plied together, which makes it perfect for lace knitting. When you have 2 strands plied together, or a 2-ply yarn, and I'm talking about ply in terms of the thickness of the yarn, sorry, I'm not talking about ply as in terms of the thickness of the yarn. So in the UK, we use ply to describe the way the yarn is constructed, so how many strands the yarn has, and the thickness of the yarn. So when I talk about 2-ply, I mean how many strands are spun together. And yarns that have 2 strands spun together, so it's a 2-ply yarn, but it could be any thickness from really, really thin to really, really thick. That's usually better for lace knitting because it opens up a little bit. Maybe less, it tends to be a yarn that's not as round. So if you have 3 or more strands plied together, you tend to get a yarn that's a little bit rounder, a little bit bouncier. That tends to have more even stitch definition, so it's better for stocking stitch and cables and that kind of thing. So this is a 2-ply yarn, which makes it perfect for lace knitting, but it means that the fabric may look a little bit uneven if you knit it in stocking stitch. So I bought this yarn in Norway when I was there in June, July. It was the first time I've knitted with it. I loved it, and I decided to knit a lace shawl with it, and I haven't knitted anything else with it. I will definitely probably get some more next time I go to Norway. Definitely on my list. So as I said, I've only knitted lace with this, so I don't actually know how it knits up in different stitch patterns. If I had brought the leftover yarn home with me, I would have sat down and just tried to knit up some cables, or maybe a bit of stranded colour work or something, just to see what it was like. But my suitcase was so full when I was coming back that I had to leave behind everything that wasn't essential. So I decided, even though it was only 2 little tiny balls of yarn, like 5 grams or something each, I could have easily fitted that in my suitcase, but I just took out anything that I didn't need to bring back with me. But I would say that this is suitable for garments, for accessories, for shawls, definitely suitable for lace shawls. It's a great all-round yarn, and it's a very affordable yarn. On their website, and I'll put the link below, they have a choice. You can change the language to Danish or English in the top right hand corner, and you can also change the currency. So it has a choice of US dollars, British pounds, euros, Norwegian kroner, Swede, I don't know, a few other currencies. So it is £3.28, so £3.28 in British pounds per 50-gram ball. So that means that this shawl costs less than £12 to knit. Obviously, you'd have to add postage to that. In euros, it was 3.63 in euros. I couldn't find this on the UK website. I didn't have a really thorough search. I just had a very quick search. So if you know of a British website that sells this yarn, do leave it in the comments. But you can order from the Holst Garn website. It's holstgarn.dk, and I'll put the link below. If you live in the UK, you may be worried about paying customs. You don't have to worry about that, because even though the UK has officially left the EU, we do have this transition period till the end of this year. So if you order before the end of 2020, you do not have to pay any customs charges. Who knows what will happen after January 2021, but for the time being, you can order from EU countries without paying customs charges, and Denmark is part of the EU. So you can order from Denmark without paying anything extra, which is quite a relief, I think. If you're in the US, I think there's I think when I had to search, I think I saw a Canadian site that sold this yarn. I'm sure it may be available from the US as well, but I'm not sure. But have a Google or contact Holst Garn and see whether they have any local stockists. Widely available in Norway. I saw it in several yarn shops in Norway. And I suspect it's the same in Sweden and obviously in Denmark. So yeah, I'd recommend this yarn. I really liked it. I'll put all the name of the yarn and the website below. I'll also put a link to this pattern. I did do another video talking about this pattern and how you can substitute yarn. So that was the previous video I posted, so you can find that on YouTube. It's a video before this one, and I'll leave all the links below. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.